Hi girls, Miss Gaska here. Today I'm going to go over with you English 1, Semester 1, Week 2, Activity 2.1, Previewing the Unit. Our learning targets for this activity are to connect prior knowledge to the genre of short story, to analyze the skills and knowledge needed to complete Embedded Assessment 1 successfully, and to make a plan for independent reading during the unit. So, let's look at the Making Connections section. In this unit, you will build on your experiences reading and writing short stories. You will study elements of short stories, not only to write your own original stories, but also to understand how to analyze and write about literature. As you study poetry, short stories, and film, you will analyze the elements that make up a writer's or director's style. You will also examine the ways in which directors of visual media manipulate their audience's reaction through the unique stylistic choices they make in creating their products. So, let's look at our first question, number 1. What makes a good story? So think about a story that you consider good. It doesn't have to be something that you read, because I know that you may be like, oh, well, I don't really like any stories, because you like to be facetious. But think about just a story in general that you like. What made it good? What made it interesting? What made it fun? What made it spooky? Whatever reason that you liked it, what made it that way? For number 2, how does an artist define his or her style? This one you're going to have to kind of put yourself in another person's shoes if you're not an artist yourself. So think about what it would be like to be an artist and how you would probably see your own style as an artist. Like, how would you define your style? And then think about how an artist similarly defines their style. So, developing vocabulary. Look at the list of academic vocabulary and literary terms on the contents page. So, I don't have a contents page for this activity for you, so we're going to ignore that. Let's go on to Unpacking Embedded Assessment 1. Your assignment is to write an original narrative from real or imagined experiences or events. Your story must include a variety of narrative techniques, such as foreshadowing, point of view, figurative language, imagery, symbolism, and/or irony, as well as effective details in a well-structured sequence of events. So let's go through and we're going to highlight our do words, like our action words, and then the things that we're supposed to do with those actions. So to begin, I'm going to highlight to write, because that's the first thing it tells us to do, is to write. And the what that I'm going to highlight is going to be an original narrative from real or imagined experiences or events. So what that basically means is write a story. It could be real, it could be fake, it doesn't matter, it's up to you. I'm going to change the color of this so that I could distinguish between my things that I have to, my verbs, and then my things that I'm going to have to do with those verbs. So my story must include, so I'm going to have to include a variety of narrative techniques. That's what I'm going to have to include, okay? Such as foreshadowing, point of view, figurative language, imagery, symbolism, and/or irony, as well as effective details in a well-structured sequence of events. So, let me just change the colors on these real quick. So now here at the bottom, I'm just going to jot down some ideas about the things I'm going to need to know in order to do this assignment successfully, okay? So, the first thing I'm going to need to know how to do is write a story. So it says an original narrative. That basically means a story that came directly from you. An original narrative, an original story. So I'm going to know how to write an original story, aka a narrative. I'm going to need to know how to use narrative techniques. I'm going to have to know what these narrative techniques mean, because if I don't know, then how am I going to use them, right? So I'm going to need to understand foreshadowing, point of view, figurative language, imagery, symbolism, and irony. So I'm going to need to be able to understand those things to the point of actually using them in my own writing. And then I'm also going to need to know how to use effective details. So that means you'll be able to evaluate what details are effective and what details are ineffective. Meaning they don't contribute to your story and they aren't really that important to include. And I'm also going to need to know how to structure my events, how to sequence my events in a way that is effective. So these are the different things I'm going to need to know how to do in order to complete my assignment correctly, okay? So that's all there is for activity 2.1. I hope that this was informative for you, and if you need any additional assistance, please reach out and let me know, and I'd be glad to help you. Keep in mind that this Embedded Assessment 1 isn't going to be due until the end of the unit, so don't stress out now about trying to put together a story. Right now, we're just previewing the story to find out the different things we're going to learn throughout the unit so that we could do this effectively. Once again, I hope that this was informative for you, and I hope to see you again in the next video. Take care.